you might imagine, the Taycan is an utterly important project for us. We are investing heavily, more than 6 million euros into e-mobility until 2022. The Taycan is our first project, and for a very special project, we decided to create a very special event, and you're going to be part of it. We're going to take you on an epic road trip. The total distance is 6,440 kilometers. We will be on the road for 18 days. I would like to hand over to my colleague Friedrich, who's going to give you a technical presentation. Friedrich.
Thank you. Welcome everybody. I would like to talk to you about the highlights of the car, and let's start with the exterior design. I think when you see the car, you can immediately recognize it as a Porsche, and that's because it has all the Porsche DNA. Like when you look from the side, we have the typical Porsche flyline. In the front, we have the very low bonnet and the high fenders, like you have in a 911. And in the back, you have the continuous light strip over the whole rear, and you have the pronounced shoulders, which make the car look really good. But at the same time, we have new design elements which take the Porsche DNA into the next era, which you might know is very, very low, and we are very proud of it. So let's move on to the interior. It's the same. It looks familiar in a way, but it's new as well. We have familiar design elements like the rising center console, or we have the very wide cockpit. But here we have the new instrument cluster, which is for the first time fully digital and has a curved display. And we have these displays over here with an extra display for the passenger for the first time, and so the passenger can choose his own contents and can choose new music, or can choose a new target for the navigation, like a restaurant or something like that. Driving position is pretty much like in a 911, so you sit really low in the car, and it is really a driver's car. So when we look at the technical highlights, we have the battery, which is positioned as low as possible between the two axes, and this helps to get a really low center of gravity for the car. And we have electric motors on both axles, and these build the all-wheel drive system. And what is a huge advantage over our combustion engine cars is that we can distribute the all-wheel drive 5 times faster than on our combustion engine cars, which is really good for the driving dynamics. What you also see, I already talked about the flyline, and you have to imagine the Taycan is even lower than a Panamera, but nevertheless we had to put the battery underneath it, and you might wonder how did we do that. And we have these holes here in the battery which are for the feet of the passenger seats in the rear, and so they have a really comfortable driving position, and we also get this really great design on the outside. And not to forget our 2-speed transmission on the rear axle, which helps to get very good acceleration times and very high speeds. So when we look at our portfolio, we positioned the Taycan below the Panamera, and we wanted the first electric car of Porsche to be a really sporty car, and we wanted to put it in a segment where we had no offer yet, and so we went for the C sedan segment, and we think it fits really well in our portfolio, and we already announced that we will make another version of it, the Taycan Cross Turismo, which will follow after the sedan version. Taycan Turbo and the Taycan Turbo S, and after time there will arrive additional models which will bring the entry price to a lower level. And you might wonder, why did we name it Turbo? And for us this makes completely sense, because Turbo has already become a brand for its own at Porsche, because it always stands for the top of the line model, and we wanted our customers to know when they buy a Taycan Turbo they get the top-notch model, and so yeah, we went for this name. So the Turbo and the Taycan Turbo S deliver 460 kilowatts, and in overboost mode they deliver up to 500 kilowatts for the Turbo and 560 for the Turbo S. And this helps us to achieve very fast acceleration time. So 0 to 100 is just in 2.8 seconds with the Turbo S, and 0 to 200 in just 9.8. So under 10 seconds to 200 is really impressive. And we can not just do this 1 or 2 times after another, but we can do it again and again. We say it's more than 10, but I can promise you it's way more. So you can really reproduce these times, and that was something which was really important to us when we developed the car. 450 kilometers according to WLTP cycle, and the charging times are round about 22 minutes for a charge from 5 to 80%. So that's also really fast. And now let's talk about the driving modes. When you are familiar with other Porsche models, you already know the normal, Sport and Sport Plus mode. And in the Taycan we have for the first time an additional mode which is for maximum range, and it's called range mode for that. And yeah, all the 4 driving modes are for different driving situations, like when you want to go really fast on the racetrack, you choose Sport Plus. When you want to cruise around, you are normal, and when you want to have the maximum range, you go in range. And the drive system, the thermal strategy. So when we look at the chassis systems, as I already mentioned, the battery helps to get a really low center of gravity. We have an even lower center of gravity than the 911, and of course that's really good for cornering. And in addition, we have all the clever chassis systems we are famous for at Porsche, like the rear axle steering, torque vectoring, Porsche dynamic chassis control, and so on. And all this helps to get really impressive driving dynamics. I guess when you get the cars tomorrow, you will see what I'm talking about. It's really, really great. Most other car manufacturers who build electric cars are going for the way for one-pedal driving. We want to go a bit of a different approach, and we think you should brake with a brake pedal. So the Taycan can recuperate with up to 265 kilowatts, which is really impressive. And this helps us that we can, in 90% of all the braking events, we can brake just with the electric motors, and we don't use the brakes at all. So when you push the brake pedal, the car for itself manages to blend over between the electric motors for braking and the brakes. So that's a really clever system. And in addition to that, you can choose when you lift off the accelerator if you want to coast, so the recuperation is off, or if you want a gentle recuperation, which is, you can imagine like when you have a car with a combustion engine and you have your gear selected, then it has a small braking effect. The assistance systems. The Taycan has a lot of assistance systems. They are the same like in our Cayenne. So they are really state of art. We have like Porsche InnoDrive, we have active lane keeping up to 210 kilometers. We have night vision, and we got a lot of other safety features. And yeah, that's really great. But of course, in the first the Taycan is a driver's car and makes a lot of fun to drive. Farther away than your range will let you go. The navigation automatically puts charging points into your route, so you don't have to think about charging. The system will always try to keep the travel time low, so the travel time contains the driving time and the charging time, so you get really fast traveling. And you have this monitor here which shows you if charging points are added to your route and how long they will take. Here in Europe, we have the Ionity network, which we are also using for our road trip. And the goal is to build up 400 charging stations until next year. And at the moment there are already 150 charging stations which are live at the moment, and another 60 are under construction.
All on the same page. If you have more questions regarding certain technologies, or if you want to go more into details, we have a lot of experts available for you for tonight over dinner, or even tomorrow when we go on the drive. So we have specialists available throughout your stay, and you can approach them anytime to ask your specific questions. So we are covered there, but we also have one very special guest tonight. I'm very honored to have him here. I would like to welcome Peter Wager. He's head of exterior design at Porsche Style. So he's the man who was responsible for the design of the Taycan of the outside. So he's also available over dinner and for interviews later on. Yeah, let's talk about your drive program, because I guess you are excited to get behind the wheel as soon as possible. My destination for day one is the Mondsee location. In terms of length and driving times, tomorrow you're going to be in the car for 370 kilometers, and the estimated driving time is over 6.5 hours. That's without any stops. So it's a long day, a lot of driving. Just to put this into perspective, we have already covered 2/3 of the days of the event, but we are only a little bit over half of the distance we have to cover. So we have to really speed up in terms of kilometers we have to collect. So you will be in the car a lot. You will get to experience the car for a long time on many beautiful roads. If you start tomorrow, the first leg to the Ionity charging station will take around 3 hours or 180 kilometers, and after lunch the second part will take roughly 3.5 hours or 190 kilometers. And the last bit will be almost 2 hours or 120 kilometers. The driving routes are designed